So things have gotten even worse for Matt Gaetz, because the person at the center of the Matt Gaetz investigation, the person that kicked it all off, may be willing to testify against him and dish the dirt about Matt Gaetz. Now, we already saw the start of this with Joel Greenberg, Matt Gaetz's accomplice and friend, basically taking a plea deal with the feds, with the FBI and the DOJ, to feed them information about Matt Gaetz. But now, the person, the minor at the center of all of this, the minor that kicked it all off, the girl that kicked it all off, may be collecting information about Matt Gaetz from his ex-girlfriend and other sources. This is wild. This is from Politico. It says, Matt Gaetz's former girlfriend has told friends she's worried that the woman who is key to the federal government's investigation tried to get her to incriminate the Florida lawmaker on a recorded call. The revelation raises the possibility that federal prosecutors have two top cooperating witnesses, the woman who was an alleged victim when she was a minor, and the Gaetz associate already indicted for that crime, former Seminole Tax County collector Joel Greenberg. And so basically, we initially thought that this person, age 17, didn't want to be involved. That the idea was, the argument was, we knew who she was. She was obviously someone who wasn't at fault in this particular case. She was just a minor, but that she wasn't necessarily cooperative with the investigators investigating Gaetz. But what this is hinting at is that this person, this minor, may be working with the feds, may be trying to collect information about Gaetz from third parties to bury him. And this is absolutely devastating. Because again, it's one thing to have all the circumstantial evidence we have, and that is valid. And enough circumstantial evidence, all the Venmo transactions and things like that, and Gaetz spending his own campaign dollars on personal legal fees, which we covered earlier today, all of that matters and is important and is valid. But when you think of the two people besides Gaetz himself who know about his skeletons in this very serious investigation, you have to think that it's one, Joel Greenberg, the guy who was doing all the scumbag, disgusting things alongside of him and was doing the Venmo transactions with him and doing the sketchy Bahamas trip with him, and then also the minor in question, the young woman, the girl that kicked it all off, a couple weeks ago, and then he went on Tucker and basically implicated Tucker Carlson live on Fox News. If both of them are talking to public officials, if they're talking to investigators, if they're talking to police, if they're talking to the DOJ and the FBI, Gaetz is in huge trouble. Because it's one thing to have Venmo transactions that say school, tuition. It's one thing to be vaguely connected to a vintage 99 account on social media, 99 referring to her birth year, 1999, which was not 18 yet by the time Gaetz had his interactions with her. That's all circumstantial. But if you can add to that Greenberg and this minor, then you have absolutely credible legal information there. Matt Gaetz is in huge trouble. Again, as I noted, it's not just a matter of his political career. I think that's sunk because on the ethics violations alone, he could be ended. On the fact that he's no longer politically useful to the Republican Party, he could be ended. They could replace him with any generic Republican in his North Florida, his Florida Panhandle riding district, and that person would get easily reelected. It's a deep red district. It's R plus 24 or whatever it is. It's deeply red. You don't need Matt Gaetz. You don't need him. Matt Gaetz is not the reason you have this district. And Trump movement, they don't want him anymore either. The Trump movement doesn't want him anymore. And so this guy is done. And more than his political career, he's got two high-profile cooperative witnesses that know where all the skeletons are. Guys, I am not exaggerating when I say that this guy's political career is not only likely over, but that he could honestly spend his life behind bars. And frankly, it might well be deserved.